friend Mike McAllister. You can see Mike tonight on the television version of Orange Nation season premiere tonight.
Or you can hear him right now here on the radio.
7 to 7:30 on News Channel 9.
We got it first.
Mike, how are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry for everyone that has to see my face later, but if you don't want to, you got radio options, so that's good.
And big news, Mike McAllister will be here for 2 hours on Saturday morning with Geo Heater hosting the RomanoCars.com pregame show.
All right.
10 to noon.
We're looking forward to that, and Mike will be on the quad with me this year as well.
Yes, correct.
A lot of Mike McAllister.
Yeah, more McAllister than you can handle.
Yes. We are looking forward to it. All right, Mike, let's talk some football. And I guess let's start with any remaining depth chart questions that you may have. Fran Brown set to address the media at 1 o'clock, at which time, normally we are presented with the depth chart just prior to him addressing the media. What remaining questions do you have about the depth chart?
I'm kind of curious to see who's going to be starting on both lines. I know they've brought in multiple transfers at both spots, to be honest. But I'm curious where David Reese fits in the two deep. Who ends up? I think we all kind of think that Tank Williams is probably going to be one of the starters at defensive tackle. So who gets the other spot? Is it Rashard Perry? Did he make a big leap from last year to this year? Is it one of the new guys like a Chris Thomas or a George Rooks? Kind of curious how that plays out. I'm also curious on the offensive line, not only who starts, but who is listed where in terms of what positions, because there's a few guys like the Zach Rices and the Josh Millers that have worked at multiple positions, so curious to see where they end up. Curious to see who starts. You've seen Willis or Will Nixon. I think they're both going to see the field quite a bit, but I am curious to see who starts at running back. And then finally, linebacker. I know it seems like a lot of positions, but I'm kind of curious to see who replaces Marlo Wax. And, does Gary Bryant, the transfer, where does he fit on the two deep? We think Derek McDonald's going to be one of the starters. Where's Anwar Sparrow in that mix? There's a lot of those types of questions that I'm curious to see.
We had two questions posed to us on Friday that I'd like to get your thoughts on. The first of which is, who are the most likely players on this team to be named All-ACC? And, let's take Jack Stonehouse out of the equation because he's already a preseason All-ACC selection. Yeah. Who would be next in line? Give me the next, 2 or 3 candidates on your list of guys who you think can play their way onto the All-ACC team at the end of the season.
Well, I think a guy like Demetrius Samuel, with how talented he is and the fact that he's going to be playing both ways, I know it's a lot to ask for a true freshman to be named to your conference's, all conference team. But he's talented enough that if he does make an impact on both sides of the ball, I could see himself working into, first, second, or third team. I'm curious if Yassine Willis has the type of breakout year that he does. Can he kind of sneak in? If they split the carries the way I think they're going to, that might make it a little bit more difficult, but I think he could at least be on the radar. And then, I wonder about Jonte Cook. We've heard a lot of good things about him throughout training camp. We know that he's extremely talented. Trevor Pena put up huge numbers last year, and Cook is kind of filling into the same role, so you would figure that means he's going to get a lot of targets. That could set up the potential that he could see some big numbers, and that could land him on some of those teams. Because unfortunately, oftentimes it's not about who is the best player at each position, but who puts up the biggest numbers, because it's so hard for everybody to watch every single game for every team.
And that leads in perfectly to the other question that we were asked on Friday, which is, what is more likely to happen this season? Syracuse has a 1,000-yard rusher, or Syracuse has a 1,000-yard receiver? I said receiver, and I specifically said Jonte Cook. What do you think the answer is to that question?
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, I won't paint myself into a corner with naming one specific receiver, but I think as we saw last year with the way that they threw the ball a lot and spread the ball around a lot, I mean, they had, 3-4 guys basically right there around 1,000 yards. So I'm not sure that I'll see it quite that distributed. Like I could see the tight end position taking a drop off in terms of the numbers that Aronde put up. but I could see some of those numbers being distributed amongst the other wide receivers, because I think Justice Ross Simmons has the potential to have a really good year. Darrell Gill has flashed some ability, so is he on the field more often and can put up some big plays? And then, as we mentioned with Jonte Cook, I certainly think there's more of a potential there, especially with what we've seen from the offense last year and how much they threw the ball.
All right, as for this opponent that they're going to see on Saturday, obviously Tennessee went to the college football playoff last year, but, lost their starting quarterback, starting running back, several key offensive linemen. A lot back on defense, those 7 starters back on a defense that was considered elite. With that in mind, what concerns you most about the Volunteers?
It's that. It's their defense, their elite defense, and the fact that Syracuse is breaking in a new quarterback, and the first defense that you see is one of the better defenses, not just in the SEC, but in the country. There's a lot of NFL talent on that side of the ball, and that's going to certainly make, Syracuse have their work cut out for them. And when you're in game one, usually there's some rust, there's some issues, there's some things you're trying to iron out. And so you'd almost prefer to have like an FCS type opponent that you can kind of work on some of those things and, in a game that you're going to win almost no matter what. But instead you get to go up against a team like this. The positive is you get a quick assessment on where you're at. The negative is if you're working out some kinks and you got some issues that perhaps you didn't foresee, that makes it a lot more difficult to adjust on the fly and still find a way to win. So it'll be really interesting to see how it plays out, but certainly the way Syracuse's offense matches up against that defense with a brand new quarterback, multiple new offensive linemen, new receivers, new tight end, new running back. I mean, a lot of new on that side of the ball. And so when you're going up against a veteran group that's as talented as they are and experienced as they are, it certainly makes it quite a challenge.
Tennessee's favored by 2 touchdowns. I've seen 14.5. I've seen 14. Vegas doesn't think it's going to be a very close game. Do you think this is a competitive football game on Saturday?
I still do. I've kind of been thinking that the entire way. I know that Tennessee is ranked, and like I said, their defense is really good, but they have a lot of questions on their offense as well, right? With a new quarterback, even though a lot of people think that he's extremely talented, but again, hasn't been a starter at this level. So there's some questions around him, some questions around all the players that they're replacing, as you mentioned, offensive linemen. So I think Syracuse has an opportunity from a defensive standpoint to get after him a little bit, and this could be a game, I think, that stays on the lower scoring side because of that. The biggest thing is going to be Syracuse's defensive line better than what it was last year. It can help stop the run, because if they have those same issues and Tennessee is able to run the ball as a lot of teams were against Syracuse last year, I think it's going to be a long day, because there could be long stretches where it's difficult for Syracuse to move the ball against that good Tennessee defense.
I do have to ask you about SU's quarterback from last year, Kyle McCord. You being an Eagles fan, the last preseason game, he played the whole thing, didn't play great, to the point where the Eagles went out and made a trade and they got Sam Howell. What happens with Kyle McCord now?
Well, I think it really depends on what happens with Tanner McKee. When they got Sam Howell, they also cut Dorian Thomas-Robinson, so it's kind of in the same spot that they were before. I was wondering if the Sam Howell move meant that they wanted a third quarterback with some NFL experience, and they're looking at Kyle McCord needing some time on the practice squad, or if that meant that they were perhaps looking to deal Tanner McKee. I know there's been some rumblings that if a team is willing to offer a second or third round draft pick, that the Eagles might be willing to consider that. But they think very highly of Tanner McKee, and I think they think highly of what Kyle McCord can become as an NFL quarterback. But obviously there's a learning curve there, and doesn't look like he's quite ready to be there. So it wouldn't totally surprise me if he ends up on their practice squad. And then, if teams, as injuries happen throughout the year, someone needs a quarterback and they say, you know what, let's go grab that guy and make him our third quarterback for now, he could end up on an NFL roster. So you never know how things can play out.
All right, Mike. Lastly, how about a prediction for Saturday?
I've gone back and forth on this a lot as far as who I think is going to win. I put in my Syracuse football season preview article that we put out today, I predicted their record at 7-5, and one of the wins, I picked was the game on Saturday. So I'm going to stick with that. I'm going to say it's going to be low scoring, something like 21-17 Syracuse, and they get off to a good start for the 2025 season.
Mike, I got one hoops question for you. I don't think we've had you on since they threw a center kind of on the roster here last minute. You know anything about him and what led to him coming here?
Yeah, so there were reports back in May that he had committed. It's Cheffing Diawara, that he had committed to Syracuse, but it wasn't officially announced by the program because he my understanding is he wanted to play through Peach Jam and go through all of that with his AAU squad, and so you can't officially sign and do all of those things until after that's done, because once you do, then Peach Jam won't let you participate. So that was kind of where the delay was in that, but a 7-footer that's, kind of in the mold of the bigs that they've added this offseason. He's athletic. He's really long, runs the floor well. Not someone that I think, at least right now, is ready from an offensive standpoint to be a major contributor. But, if he's forced into action, I could see him being someone that eats up some space in the middle, is a decent rim protector, and, he was a pretty good rebounder at the AAU level as well. So those are kind of the skills we're looking for from him.
And just to reiterate what Mike said, we had Adrian Autry on the newscast on Friday at 5, and I asked him that off air, and he said a similar thing, that, he's kind of been with us all along, but he had some things that he had to take care of first before we could officially announce it. So, right, it wasn't necessarily a last-second hiring, to Mike's point. He was expected here. They just they didn't officially announce it until just recently. Mike, great stuff as always. We look forward to seeing you over on the TV side of things tonight at 7.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, Mike McAllister joining us here on the show. We'll hit a timeout. We'll wrap up hour number 1 next. Then Fran Brown, his first game week press conference of year number 2.